What do you say, everybody? With Andrew Bone, I'm Mick Gillespie. Welcome to the Bamainsider YouTube channel. It's time for the show that you guys love and adore, Recruiting with Andrew Bone, the guru of Alabama recruiting. But before we go there, let me ask you guys to do us a solid. That's a way to say a favor, maybe a thank you. And that is like and subscribe. Be part of what we're doing here. We love you guys, and we appreciate all of you as we close in on 80,000 subscribers on a quest to get 100,000, as many as Alabama has seats and fans at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. And don't forget this. Before I bring Bone on and we talk about recruiting and what happened last weekend and what's going on now and all the commitments that are here to come on this number one recruiting class, let me tell you this. You can get all of the latest information at Bamainsider.com with Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, the entire On3 crew. And you can do that at Bamainsider.com. $10 gets you an entire year. Or if you just want to try it out, short term, $1 gets you 4 months. It's definitely well worth it, the latest information. What's up, Bone?
How's it going, Mick? Yeah, we ran into each other this past weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Look, hung out at Innisfree on Friday. It was awesome seeing you and so many of the people that watch our shows that swing out. Just keep running into people that are part of this community. It was really cool to kind of catch up with you a little bit, talk some football, see Baby Bone, see Miss Bone. It was just a lot of fun. And then, and then you guys left and I had the show there at Innisfree. So now I got to get you down at Floribama. We'll be there in the next two Alabama football Fridays.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it down there. You missed me 2 weeks ago, so that might be my only chance to get down there this season. But I'll definitely be back in Tuscaloosa this year. So hopefully we'll run into each other again.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was great to see you. Well, let's talk about the recruits that were in Tuscaloosa along with you, Bone, this past weekend. Give us a recap.
Yeah, I mean, obviously another pretty big weekend for the Crimson Tide. A lot of big names that were on campus. We talked about that Mississippi State, the Texas A&M game weekend. All those different guys that were coming in. We knew, we always know the Iron Bowl is going to attract a lot of top recruits. But Mississippi State had its fair share of top targets on campus this past week, and you had the top two recruits in the state, James Smith and Quay Russaw. Out of Carver High School in Montgomery. Both those guys were back in town. It was their second visit of the season with the Tide, so getting them back in town, always a good thing. A couple official visitors, Daevin Hobbs, 5-star defensive lineman out of North Carolina. You also had Jordan Hall, the big defensive tackle out of Jacksonville, Florida, taking his official visit to Tuscaloosa this past weekend. I think so. So getting those guys, in town, especially, at a position that remains a top priority for Alabama. I mean, you had three of your top 5 or 6 defensive line targets overall on campus this past weekend. So, great showing from the Alabama defense on Saturday. So I'm sure they enjoyed seeing that. But you also had some top juniors who were on campus, some top underclassmen, and also a lot of Alabama commitments. So overall, great weekend for the Tide, and good to get a lot of those guys back on campus.
What about Hobbs, the 5-star defensive lineman? You mentioned him. How did things go? And how are they going as he's got his decision date coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think things went really well with Hobbs this weekend. We've got a couple of interviews with him on Bamainsider after his trip. More of a national perspective. Chad Simmons did an interview with Hobbs shortly after the visit, but Joseph Hastings, who works with us as our recruiting reporter, he got a chance to speak to Hobbs shortly after his trip, and I exchanged some texts with Daevin as well, and things went really well. We knew kind of going into the visit that there was a lot of momentum on Tennessee's side with Hobbs coming off that really emotional win for the Vols last week in Knoxville against Alabama. So I think once the dust kind of settled on that, he was able to get back to Tuscaloosa, see everything that Alabama has to offer, not just game day environment, but also everything they've got to offer off the field. And I think he had a great official visit. From everything he said, I mean, you're never going to have a bad official visit unless you're just some guy that just shows up on campus. You may not have ever been seen by the Alabama coaching staff before. They invited you for an official, and then they decide, this isn't necessarily a guy that we're really pushing for. But Hobbs is one of those guys that they really want and has visited Alabama 3 or 4 times now. They really like him a lot. They want him to be a part of this recruiting class, and he is going to be a top target for them all the way until he commits. And even if he doesn't commit to Alabama, all the way until the early signing period. So I do think Alabama made a big move with him once again this weekend. They're certainly in I don't want to say the driver's seat, but they are certainly right there in that top 2, top 3, and he's not making a decision right now. He's going to make a decision on November the 25th. So, it's not going to be happening in the next week or 2. He's still going to take some more visits. He's got a visit to Georgia coming up on November the 5th. That weekend, that Tennessee comes into town, and Georgia's been, they've been a top contender for Daevin for several months. I mean, just like Alabama, Tennessee's probably been there the longest. He took some visits to Tennessee last year as a junior. There's a lot of high interest there, but with Alabama and Georgia really making strong moves for him over the course of the last few months, really ever since summer when he started going to camps. That's really when their interest really started to peak, and it's continued to grow, especially with the way he's been performing as a senior this year. So Alabama's definitely in this race. We've got more about Hobbs in the Insider Report on Bama Insider. We've also have interviews on Bama Insider with Hobbs about the trip. So certainly encourage fans to go check that out to see what all he had to say about the visit. But from my point of view, Alabama's definitely in it. They're going to be in it. It's really close between Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia. North Carolina is still kind of in the mix, but I don't think he's going to end up going there. I think it's between one of those 3 schools. Going to be, in my opinion, going to be one of those 3 schools when he makes that decision here next month.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up and the bell. The thumbs up's a way of saying roll tide, and the bell, that's when we're live with our shows, including Recruiting with Andrew Bone every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, when Bone gives us insight on all that goes on with Alabama right now. 23 recruits in the number 1 recruiting class, according to On3 and most of the major other recruiting sites. All right, let's talk about a guy who everyone feels like is going to end up at Georgia. We're talking about Jordan Hall, 6'3.5", 310 pounds, out of Westside in Jacksonville, Florida. He was in town, Bone, as Alabama making headway with this guy.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think that Alabama has really made a strong move with him. And this wasn't just a weekend thing. This has been something that's been going on for the last few weeks, last month or so. This is a kid we talked about last week as far as Alabama's interest. They really liked him a lot during the spring. He came in for junior day, but ended up not coming back during the summer. I think Alabama wanted to see him a little bit during the summer camp. Nick Saban always likes to see any guy they offer, likes to see those guys work out in person, go to camp. And, for some reason or another, Jordan just didn't make it back to Tuscaloosa this summer. So carefully evaluated his senior film, and, really after watching, and, it's not like they, weren't in contact with him. They had remained in contact, but ever since evaluating senior film, getting a chance to see him a little bit more in person, this is a guy that they really want and they're really going after. And he's a guy that also grew up an Alabama fan. He said his dream was to play for the University of Alabama, and now he's got that opportunity. Now, does that mean he's going to go there? Not necessarily. There's still, ways to go. And, as far as, whenever he's going to make that decision, but Alabama is right there. He knows he's needed. They really, emphasize that this weekend during his visit, that they are really kind of short on numbers. They only signed 3 defensive linemen in the 2022 class. They have 3 defensive linemen currently in this 2023 class. So still looking to add some more defensive linemen and really some size. I mean, they're looking, they've got some great defensive ends, some edge rushers type players. They really need some big guys in the middle. They signed a big one last year in Jaheim Otis. They're certainly still looking for some more, and this is a guy that they really like a lot. Very quick off the ball. I mean, you look at that guy. I mean, this is a 300-pound plus player, moving that well on the defensive front. I mean, certainly a guy that Alabama is going to continue to push hard for over the course of these next 2 months. He's probably going to wait until December to make a decision. I think he's going to take his official visits, his other official visits before deciding. But, you look there right now at that RPM. Alabama's at the very bottom. Well, not at the very bottom, but, the bottom of that group right there. And, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think they've really moved up. I think they're really close with Georgia. Could be ahead of Georgia, but he's not saying that at all. But Alabama's certainly a top contender there in Jordan Hall's recruitment. They're going to do they'll do an in-home visit here in the next month and a half, and they're certainly going to have a strong chance to potentially land him. But great interview on Bamainsider with Jordan Hall about the trip. Everything he kind of saw in Tuscaloosa. Alabama's pursuit, how they see him fitting in on the defense, and kind of where he's at overall in his recruiting journey.
Well, Bone, 2 guys are saying that they're going together, Quay Russaw and James Smith. And these guys are high school teammates in Carver, in Montgomery, Alabama. It's a place I drive by a lot when I'm coming, up and down between Birmingham and Montgomery. How these guys both go to the same high school, and they said they're going to the same college. Is that staying pat? And, kind of what's the latest on these 2 guys?
Yeah, nothing's changed there. I mean, they've been saying this from day one, and I don't see any reason to believe that they're going to end up going to a different school. And these are 2 guys that work out together, train together, play together, go on every single visit together, and they are planning on playing together in college. We always hear about different kids saying they're going to play together. Kids that are either teammates, friends from in the community. They may just know each other from recruiting visits, but with James and Quay, it's completely different. They're playing together. They want to. That's their intention, and I certainly expect it. I don't think anything's going to change now. They were back in Tuscaloosa this past weekend for another unofficial visit. It was their second unofficial visit to Alabama this season. They're expected back for the Iron Bowl next month, and then they'll take their official visit in December. Now, they do have a couple big visits coming up in November. They're going to take an official to Georgia. They're going to take an official to Ohio State. Kind of see where things are with those 2 teams after those official visits. But we know Auburn's still in it. We know Florida's in it. Florida had both of those guys on campus 2 weekends ago. Things went really well. And obviously the Gators are, recruiting at a very, very high level with Billy Napier and that staff. And they've seemed to really like Florida a lot. But in the end, still leaning Alabama. I think Alabama is still in pretty good shape. They've lost some in-state targets, to some out-of-state programs like Peter Woods to Clemson, Kelby Collins to Florida. And even though they're still recruiting those guys, as of right now, I don't see either one of them flipping to Alabama. So losing 2 more of the top, in-state guys, in my opinion, just isn't going to happen. They're going to be priorities. They are definitely guys that they want to add. And, I think Alabama's going to make sure that they do everything they can to land both of them.
Yeah, really interesting, guys, as you hang out with us in the comments section. Love seeing all of you. Keep the comments coming as we hang out with you on a Tuesday night talking recruiting with Andrew Bone here, part of the Bamainsider YouTube channel and On3. And, again, $10 an entire year of On3. You get all the inside scoop, the nuggets on recruiting, Andrew Bone and Joseph Hastings and the entire On3 team. And then maybe you just want to figure it out, kind of test it. $1 gets you 4 months. So that's a great way to just kind of dip your toe in and see if you like it, see what you think about everything that we got going on. Message board with Clint Lamb and Jimmy Stein, all the team coverage as well. And I promise you, things are just going to keep on getting better and better and better. Mark my words on that. as On3 builds this incredible site that's really going to change the face of team coverage. All right, Bone, let's switch gears now. Let's talk about a guy that is leaning towards an ACC team, Miami, Clemson, Florida State. And I'm talking about Damari Brown out of American in Fort Lauderdale. And you talk about this guy. I mean, he's sought after. Alabama starting to kind of pull into the mix with these 3 ACC schools.
Yeah, well, this is definitely somebody that we're going to start watching a little bit more closely in the coming months, coming weeks. Damari Brown out of American Heritage High School, same high school that produced, Pat Surtain, and Earl Little Jr. Currently on Alabama's campus as a freshman defensive back. But Damari actually took an official visit to Alabama back in June. I think the staff probably wanted him to camp. He ended up not camping. It's nothing against him. It's just Alabama likes to see every single target, work out and get a chance to work with Coach Saban. I mean, you think about Damari Brown, being a cornerback. Nick Saban works with those corners. He likes to, see them in action. And Damari did not camp, but he took an official visit, so he already got that whole experience. And Alabama, has liked what they've seen out of him during his senior season, and definitely somebody that I think they are going to start, I don't think that there's been a heavy pursuit on him over the course of the last few months, but I think that's starting to change a little bit. I think we're starting to see an uptick in Alabama's interest. They certainly wanted him to come up to campus. They got him up there for the Mississippi State game. I'm sure they're going to try to get him, potentially for another game. But this is definitely somebody that, we're going to continue to watch and see if, something potentially happens. But I do think that they've got some ground to make up, but we'll see how things go the next over the next month or so, and see if Alabama can potentially pull away, because obviously they've had a lot of success from that high school, and they want to continue to do so.
Yeah, right. So that would mean that Alabama has a ton of great corners if they were able to land him.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly a position that they would like to add at least one more. And I think that, if they can potentially get 2 more, they'd be absolutely stoked. And there's still some guys out there that, are still very much in play for Alabama. We got a big commitment coming up this week that we're going to be watching closely in Cormani McClain, which we'll talk about here in a second. Desmond Ricks just reclassifying from 2024 to 2023. That's another guy that we're obviously going to be watching pretty closely as well. Will Alabama be able to get Malik Muhammad, the Texas commitment, back on campus for an official visit? Tyler Scott out of Georgia. He received an offer from Alabama a few weeks ago, but came off of his trip to Tennessee, naming the Vols as his leader. So, still some guys out there, but this is definitely a guy that we can definitely add to the mix, and we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out in the end, because this is definitely a position where Alabama wants to. Not just wants, but has to add at least one more corner to this recruiting class, because they do have some great safeties in this class. There's only one corner, Jahil Hurley, but he could play, really, anywhere in the secondary. And I think that's how Alabama, really kind of sees him. Tony Mitchell, who's 6'1", 205 pounds, more than likely going to be a safety. But I, had a chance to talk to Tony the other day, and even Tony told me, he said, Alabama has talked to me more about playing corner, playing nickel, playing safety. I can play just about any position in the secondary. So Alabama has a great secondary class. If they can get 1 or 2 more corners, it's going to make it really elite. No
doubt about it. Well, Bone, you're all over the place with the coverage, and a lot of the stuff that from visitors is on our site, Bamainsider.com. You want the premier coverage, you need to be a subscriber. So I don't want to get into too much of that, leave some of that premium content for, the people that are part of Bama On3 and the Bama Insider site. But let's kind of dip into just a couple of those juniors that were on campus. And one of those guys is Julian Sayin, right? This is a quarterback commit. Not a commit, a quarterback that may be slightly leaning towards Georgia, but that Alabama is definitely keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a guy that Alabama likes a lot. He came to Tuscaloosa back during the summer after receiving an offer in the spring. Didn't work out. Just visited campus that day and then came back this past weekend for the Mississippi State game. Had a lot of great things to say. We got a really good interview, in-depth interview with Julian on Bamainsider. He's going to be making a decision within the next few weeks. So if you want to know, kind of where things are with Julian, we are discussing that on Bamainsider.com. He wasn't the only top recruit in that 2024 class who was on campus this past week, and there were several guys, including Daniel Hill out of Mississippi, one of Alabama's top targets in the 2024 class. You also had Jordan Lockhart, a 6'3", 225-pound linebacker from St. John Bosco in Bellflower, California, which was actually a rival high school to Bryce Young back in his high school days. Lockhart's an Ole Miss commitment, but this was his third visit to Alabama this past weekend. You also had Sterling Dixon out of Mobile Christian, who's going to be announcing on December the 1st. Excuse me. He was in Tuscaloosa. And kind of a top three: Alabama, LSU, Auburn. I think Alabama trying to play a little bit of catch up right now, but he says that he had a great trip. Got an in-depth interview with Sterling about his trip on Bamainsider right now. So also be sure to check that out. And another guy that's going to be making a decision here pretty soon in that junior class is Kavion Henderson, a 2024 edge rusher, defensive lineman. He's probably, I think he's about 240 pounds right now. He's going to be making a decision on November the 6th. Alabama trending in the right direction for him right now. I think he's been to Tuscaloosa 4 or 5 times this football season. I don't even know. I think he made a trip down to Auburn, but I think that's the only other place he's been to this season. So Alabama looking in pretty good shape for Kavion as we head into a couple weeks before he announces his college commitment.
It's exciting. Talking about announcing a college commitment, how about Cormani McClain down to Alabama and Florida? He's going to announce here soon. Everyone seems to feel like the momentum's going the other direction, away from Alabama towards the Gators. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems that way. This has been a big-time target for a lot of schools, throughout his entire recruiting journey. Alabama probably felt like it had a great chance with him, from the very beginning, especially when Travaris Robinson joined Alabama staff earlier this year. I think, the two had a very good relationship with each other prior to T-Rob joining the staff. And, they've certainly gone all out to potentially, land his commitment. But that being said, Florida has had Cormani on campus, I think, 3 times since his last trip to Alabama. His last visit to Tuscaloosa was back in June. There was some talk that he was going to come up a couple different times for visits this season. Never happened. We kept hearing that he was going to wait until after the season to visit, which still may happen, even if he doesn't commit to Alabama this week. But in my opinion, I think Florida is in pretty good shape with Cormani, and definitely somebody that is an elite football player that can have a unbelievable career. But I think his relationship with the Gators, especially with Corey Raymond, the defensive backs coach, I think they've done a really good job recruiting him, and they've certainly sold his development of defensive backs from his time at LSU. I think they've done a good job of selling that to him. And, we'll see what happens on Thursday. But, obviously Coach Saban has produced a lot of really good defensive backs as well, especially guys that are really starring in the NFL right now. But, I do think that Florida is the team to beat, and I'm certainly leaning that way as he heads into this decision here the next few days.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, finally, let's talk about Desmond Ricks, 5-star, Chesapeake, Virginia. That's been a hotbed of college football talent over the years, but he's at IMG Academy, another cornerback, and he's someone that Alabama would really like to get.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. This is, we've been talking about all these guys that it doesn't look good for Alabama as far as cornerbacks are concerned. Going elsewhere now, you have one of the best in the 2024 class, reclassifying to 2023. So does Alabama potentially, strike gold here and land Ricks? Since they potentially are going to miss on some of these other targets down the road. Alabama's in it. Alabama's in that top 2, top 3 with him right now. I think LSU's certainly there, Florida State, potentially Miami. I don't think he's in a rush to make a decision. Now, we all talk about, these 2023 guys. Most of them are going to decide, in December, before December, but certainly by that early signing period. Desmond's not planning on doing that. He plans on waiting until February to make a decision. So he's going to be kind of a late decision, one that we don't typically see anymore from recruits. Everybody goes ahead and signs in December. Maybe he surprises everybody and goes ahead and signs, but I don't expect that. I think he's going to wait, take his official visits in January, and then make that decision. But as of right now, we do think he's going to be back in Tuscaloosa for the Iron Bowl. He attended Alabama's game against Vanderbilt earlier this season. So there's definitely high interest there, and getting him back on campus potentially here in the next few weeks would definitely be huge before an official visit. So we are going to be watching Desmond Ricks very closely over these next few months, but not ready to make a prediction on him just yet. I keep seeing people make predictions. Oh, well, he's leaning towards LSU, or he might be leaning towards Alabama. Listen, we've talked to people on every single side. Talked to people on Florida side, the LSU side, the Bama side. Everybody kind of has a different opinion. Nobody's really sure what he's going to do. I think everybody who's making predictions on where he's going to go are just kind of throwing those out there because it's still early. He's going to take these official visits. He's going to wait until February. So just kind of be patient here. Let it all play out, see how it all unfolds. But Alabama is certainly a top contender with Desmond Ricks.
All right. Well, Bone, a lot of great information on the show. Anything that I missed? Anything that you didn't get to talk about that you want to kind of bring up before we pack it up for the night?
Not really. I mean, there's no really new news on some of these other guys that we've been talking about over the course of the last few weeks. People always want to know what's the latest with Keon Keeley. There's, just not anything new. He's, still pretty torn on what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. I do think it's Alabama and Ohio State, with Florida trailing. Probably going to see something happen within the next, couple weeks with Keon Keeley, but. I think a lot of these other guys are just kind of waiting until, maybe some official visits take place. Arian Carter out of Tennessee, he's going to take his official visits. Jaron Hamilton going to take an official visit to Alabama for the Iron Bowl. A lot of these other guys are just waiting until December. So we'll see kind of what happens, what transpires over these next few weeks. But obviously the big one we're going to be watching this week is Cormani McClain. Maybe we see some other decisions happen, but we're going to see some happen over the course of the next couple of weeks. But the majority of them we're going to see happen a little bit later on in November into December, and hopefully we'll get to that early signing period. Still with some fun recruitments to watch.
Guys, as you hang out with us, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up as we talk recruiting every Tuesday night, starting at 8 o'clock here on the Bamainsider YouTube channel. Give us the thumbs up. That's a way of saying roll tide, maybe appreciate Bone in the show. We just can't thank you enough for being part of our channel and everything that we do. This is an off week for Alabama, so a little bit slower. No Friday night tailgate show, no post-game show on Saturday. But anytime the players talk, you can check that out. Anytime Nick Saban's up, we got that as well. And you know what? The calm before the storm, which is Alabama and LSU next week. It's become a big game, big rival for Alabama. And it could determine who goes to Atlanta, the winner of that game, coming up next Saturday. Special thanks, Chris Daughtry, behind the scenes for all the great stuff. And he wants me to remind all of you guys that you can join Bama Insider on 3 right now. You get all the recruiting nuggets with Andrew Bone and Joseph Hastings. You get the latest information, premium content, the message board with Clint Lamb and Jimmy Stein. That also includes team coverage. Right now, $10 gets you an entire year, or $1 for 4 months if you just want to try it out. But we want you to be there as well. Special thanks to you, Bone. Another great job. And for Kyle Henderson and our entire crew, I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for hanging out with us here. Recruiting with Andrew Bone. We'll do it again next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Roll Tide, everybody.